Welcome to the Film Florida podcast. I'm John Lux, and I'm the Executive Director of Film Florida. Before we get to our interview, if you're not already a member of Film Florida, please consider joining at filmflorida.org. Please also consider going to our website and donating $20.25 for our 2025 fundraising campaign. Visit the Film Florida merchandise page at filmflorida.creator-spring.com to purchase Film Florida t-shirts, sweatshirts, coffee mugs, and more. All merchandise proceeds go to the Film Florida Filmmaker Grant and Scholarship Fund. Katie Pryor and Tony Armer are the co-founders of FilmUSA, a national nonprofit trade organization representing all film commissions across the United States. FilmUSA is dedicated to the enhancement of the film, TV, and digital media production industry across the country. They partner with film commissions, filmmakers, and industry stakeholders to help connect the community and drive production across the states. We talked to them about their day jobs, how FilmUSA came to be, the mission and goals for the future, and more on this episode of the Film Florida podcast. Here's my conversation with Katie Pryor and Tony Armer from FilmUSA. Welcome to the Film Florida podcast, Katie and Tony.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So let's start with the origin story. Where did each of you come from? Help the audience get to know you. Katie, you start.
Okay, I love starting with a good origin story. So my background is in political consulting, film, and marketing PR. So all of that culminated into being the film commissioner in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, about 8 years ago. And then Tony and I joint effort started FilmUSA in 21. And then that brings us up to date for the podcast.
Tony, how about you? What's your backstory?
That's a brief intro, Katie. I'll go a little longer. I feel like you probably have some people listen to this podcast who know who I am, since I'm such a Florida guy and have been for a while. So I started out as an independent filmmaker, like many of us do. Well, and prior to that, actually as a wannabe actor. And we all know how that is as far as, trying to be an actor. And started the Sunscreen Film Festival in 2006 was our very first year. And so now just celebrated our 20th year for that, which we're very excited about. And so really kind of, being embedded in the Florida film industry from being an independent filmmaker, Sunscreen Film Festival, and then became the St. Pete Clearwater Film Commissioner in 2014. Did that for almost 9 years until Dallas recruited me away, and I took over as Dallas, Texas Film Commissioner for about a year and a half, starting in January 2023, and then got recruited away from there to be head of production for talent entertainment and, our sound stages, Southside Studios in Dallas. So I'm back in Florida full time. I go to Dallas as needed, and as Katie said, we work together with FilmUSA as well.
Now, Katie, before we get into the FilmUSA in detail, you mentioned you lead the Baton Rouge Film Commission, and you also teach at LSU, if I'm not mistaken. Talk a little bit about your typical day and a little bit about the responsibilities of both of those.
Well, thank you. Yes, I do teach at LSU, which has been a little over 5 years now, and a great pleasure. And it keeps me hooked into the young minds and what people are thinking and doing at that age. So it's really great. A day-to-day is tricky. We get calls as film commissioners for people wanting to shadow or whatnot. And I'm like, do you want to sit there and watch me answer emails all day? To make it not sound sparkly, it's a lot of emails in the day, but it's emails that I enjoy. So day-to-day would be getting up and seeing what wants to film in Baton Rouge, doing location packages, working on permits, getting them set up in the area and connected to the local crew, et cetera. And then, of course, as a film commissioner, you're always trying to build on your network connections to get people to come film here. So supporting the local as well as reaching out and trying to get people to come in and invest. And then the day-to-day with teaching is wild. You have no idea what you're going to get there. So you prepare a lecture and then you go in and see how it goes. Fortunate for me, I'm able to teach college. So the conversations are really interesting to get their perspective on what the future looks like as a young person trying to enter into this industry. And a lot of the curriculum that we go through is the power of storytelling from neurocinematics, so the brain chemistry of storytelling on a 101 basis, and then it moves into society basis, whether it's just the group think in a theater to this way story forms society, specifically starting with 3 months before Pearl Harbor. We talk about the government relationship with Hollywood. from 3 months before Pearl Harbor to current day. So in today's climate, it's really interesting. The kids have a lot to say. So I would say I'm technically the professor, but I'm definitely more the student of them.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Now, Tony, you mentioned your time at St. Pete Clearwater as the Film Commission, as well over in Dallas, but you talked about your role at Talent Entertainment. Talk about your passion for filmmaking and where that really came from and how that manifests in your current role.
Yeah, I like to tell people growing up as a kid in Toledo, Ohio, I either wanted to be in the film business or I wanted to be a college football coach. So the path I ended up on after a lot of twists and turns is the filmmaking world. And so really it was just, growing up as a kid and seeing Raiders of the Lost Ark in theaters as a little kid and watching all the stuff that a child of the 80s watched, the Star Wars movies and James Bond films and Raiders of the Lost Ark. And you're like, I want to do that. That looks fun. Not, be an archaeologist being shot at by people, but make that happen and make that kind of entertainment. And so, like I said, a lot of twists and turns through the years, but that's been my passion for many, many years. And it's a hard industry, as we all know, but I'm excited to be a part of it.
Now let's turn our attention to FilmUSA. What is it? How did it become a thing? And kind of what's the current state of the organization?
How did it become a thing? Well, as Katie said, her and I, we actually met on a virtual panel for the New Orleans Film Festival in 2020. And we got to talking after that, went to Cannes Film Festival in 2021. And while we were there, we just noticed that there was a huge lack of American presence. And I'd been attending Cannes since 2013. And as St. Pete Clearwater Film Commissioner, had a pavilion there in 2015, 16, 17. And we were the only Americans there. Like little St. Pete Clearwater, the only Americans in the entire film industry to have a major presence as far as representing an area. And so as Katie and I were talking, we're like, why is this? Why is there no presence? And it just got to the point where we're like, well, I guess if no one else is going to do it, we might as well. And that's a codependent problem that the two of us have, is that entrepreneurial spirit that can get you into a lot of trouble, but can also lead to great things as well.
I would say Tony and I are a dangerous duo because we are not very good at our no's and we say yes to too much. So then you put us together and it's a disaster. But he's right. We were there and we said, look, there's a problem. And then we started discussing it further. What are the roots of that? Because every country is represented and they're promoting their tax incentives, their locations, their filmmakers, their opportunity. And then the US is notably missing. There are private companies that say they're representing the US, but not in the capacity that you see governments really representing the other. So we drilled down, and the first thing that we could do, the action item we could do, is create a association. So that's a Film Commissioner Association, and hence the launch of FilmUSA. We currently have over 100 members, and we're spread across the entire country. And it is a lovely community, grassroots organization that's able to really work for change. So the other stark difference in the US versus other markets, and production heavy markets specifically, is we don't have a federal film incentive, nor do we have a federal film office. And a federal film office is usually the group that sets up the events in Cannes and major markets and is representing and working on economic reporting and market forecasting and workforce development and everything else. So everything film commissioners do at a regional level, we do it state by state here. We don't have it overall, which presents some pros and cons, but it really is a hindrance to our competitiveness globally. And so we said, all right, let's start by getting the association together. And then we drafted a white paper on what a federal strategy would look like. We worked with a senator to get that drafted into a bill for the American Film and Television Act. We have been on this since we've been kind of the earlier voice in the conversation because we started these talks in 21. We have not pushed the bill for support for a sponsor to hit the floor just yet because we, as you know, and we can get into this, the climate for our industry has changed greatly over the past 180 days and since COVID before that. So things have changed, and we're trying to give space and opportunity for the US to become more proactive rather than reactionary to this.
Yeah. Now, Katie, the organization works to foster relationships between regional film commissioners. Explain how film commissioners can join first and talk about some of the benefits that you guys offer.
Well, I would say the most exciting thing is it's free for US film offices. So, we are all notoriously understaffed and underfunded. And so we're trying to make miracles happen every day. So we did not set out to break anybody's bank or to make a fortune on this. So it's free to film commissioners. We will be opening at the end of the year for partnerships that are year long and open to other people in the industry. It won't be the same benefit list that there are to members. So let's talk about the member benefits. They're first and foremost the community, the conversation, and the power in that is incredible. And so we connect our members regularly in different ways. We have a quarterly member call. We have one-off calls if anybody needs to, has a service or something they want to reach out to a lot of film commissioners. We have regular correspondence on emails, more or less newsletter style emails to all the members. We have an online platform with Mighty Networks that has been really great. It's a way for all of us to connect privately online, and it's kind of our own personal LinkedIn versus meets Facebook platform, if you're not familiar with Mighty Networks, which has been great. And we're able to share resources on best practices, on how different offices are funded or structured or whatnot. And every year we do one massive, annoyingly long, probably for our members, questionnaire, so we can share that detail with everyone. And then we connect people. If you're, depending on what phase you're in, we're able to help you get to another film commissioner that might be in a similar development phase. And so it just creates that camaraderie and that bond. And then another thing that we provide is the ability to affordably market your area. So we come in as partners in areas like Cannes, Berlin, Sundance, et cetera, where your buy-in is a lot smaller because you're representing as part of the country. So the whole time you're representing your office, you're bolstering the entire country as well. And so it's the opportunity to facilitate and smooth and ease your daily life, and then help you strengthen numbers, gather to support on a global scale.
Now, some of the things you mentioned, we can relate to at Film Florida when you talk about collaboration between offices, pooling resources from a marketing perspective. Tony, I wanted to ask you kind of the balancing act, because we have that within our organization where we try and be as collaborative as possible, but there is a level of competition, of course, amongst some of the film commissions, and you have that on a much greater scale because you have larger entities. Talk a little bit about that balancing act between collaboration and competition.
Yeah, it's actually a good point. Florida is a great example because in Florida, your markets are fairly similar. Like if you've got a beach in St. Pete Clearwater, you got a beach in Fort Lauderdale, you're going to be competing against each other for those beach markets or other, areas around the state. And so there is a little competition in that way. But then when you broaden that out to a national scale, someone in Florida isn't competing against a film commission in Colorado necessarily. Those are very two distinct and different looks. And so while you may have those similarities, there are more differences that make it more beneficial to partner together. So on the joint marketing missions that we do, when you have Dallas and Florida film commissions and Baton Rouge, and the thing that people are most competitive about is really the incentives. And so that's where I as a former film commissioner and, the current film commissioners, that's really where the competition lies, because we don't control that. We don't control who is setting what the incentives are in our states and regions kind of thing. And so a lot of it is, even though there's that competition because you want to bring that business to your area, it's very collaborative because the goal, one of the major goals of FilmUSA is bringing the business back to the United States. We've lost so much business internationally that our 100+ members can all agree that we want that business to come to the U.S. because if it comes to Baton Rouge and Baton Rouge is full and there's nowhere to shoot there, well, some of that may trickle over to Texas or Florida or wherever else it might be. And so there's a very, I would call it minor competition, but for the most part, everyone is excited to work together because that collaboration does make the industry stronger as a whole.
Now, you talked a little bit about the plan for a federal film office, but that's just a small part of FilmUSA's growth plan. What is part of the plan and the timetable for the growth within the organization?
The federal component is different growth structure, growth plan, I would say, because we're constantly adjusting to what's going on at the federal level, which is ever changing. So right now, I can't say timelines because has yet to be seen. Our original plan was to creation of the Federal Film Office, which would give a lot of economic backing and a realistic research into what we've lost and what we have, and make a strategy and a plan. And we felt that some of that plan would be the recommendation of a federal film incentive. And now you're having a lot of discussion where you've never had it before what people are talking about an incentive. So our federal efforts are really going to be tied into how everything goes at a federal level with the incentive. And there are a number of groups that we're constantly working with and talking to on how that would work. We're part of a larger coalition. You've seen the letter that went to the White House. It was published in Deadline. It was Voight, Stallone, and then all of the lead organizations in the industry like the MPA, the WGA, the PGA, FilmUSA, Producers Guild, just everybody on this letter and urging federal action. So on the federal side, we'll see how that goes. On the growth rate on the organization itself, it has been breakneck speed. We came home from Cannes in 21. We said, let's do this. And the community of film commissioners jumped on board. And we've since ramped up membership. So I say over 100 members being offices, but keep in mind some offices have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, and they're all members. And then we're breaking off into committees, and we're trying to host large events everywhere. We participate. We have a panel in Cineposium. We have an event that we'll be doing at Berlin, a Focus at Cannes every year, and that just keeps growing, and the demand for that is growing. So sorry, it's a long answer to a short question, but when you ask growth, it's as quickly as we possibly can manage it. It's grassroots, so it's on the efforts of our members. So everything's run on love, kindness, and free time. Only one of those is available sparingly.
Now, you also mentioned that you guys represent U.S. film commissions at key international events. You mentioned a couple of them, but talk a little bit about what it means to have a presence at these global sales missions and what kind of outcomes you've seen from them.
Yeah, to me and Katie and our members in general, when I started doing it at St. Pete Clearwater, and once you get out there into the world and you start seeing and people start seeing you, that makes all the difference in the world for attracting business to your region. You know, people have to know who you are before they'll come. You can't just say, hey, we ran an ad in, XYZ magazine or something online, and now people will flock to our area to films. Like, you have to get out there and beat the streets, and you've got to meet people. And this job position of being a film commissioner is not for the shy. Anyone that's an introvert is not going to do well, because you've got to be able to walk up to complete strangers or have strangers walk up to you and have those conversations. And the reason that the international markets are so big is because, well, that's where the business is. There are 4 major markets every year: Berlin, Cannes, Toronto, and AFM. And that is where everything happens. That's where the deals get made. That's where all the filmmakers are at. That's where the producers are at. That's where the buyers, that's where the studios are at. And so if you're not there, well, then what are you doing? How are you actually promoting your destination, and where are you meeting the people to draw them to your area? And so, this is a global industry. You can't just say, I'm just going to sit back at home or go to a couple little film festivals in the US and try and make things happen. And especially with the volume of business that's been lost to other countries, it's hugely important. And on top of that, there's a huge number of international filmmakers who want to come shoot in the U.S. And so they don't necessarily have the capability to just show up over here and tour this massive country of ours and figure out what they want to do. And so if they can meet you on their home ground, well, then it makes all the difference for you being able to kind of pitch to them, especially when you talk about places like the United Kingdom. They love coming to the U.S. and shoot. And Florida in general. I was able to bring a bunch of projects from the U.K. to Florida over my years, doing this kind of thing. So it's hugely important, and it does make a difference.
And Tony, you mentioned Cannes and the marché there, the film market. Help audiences understand why this film market is so important and what you saw in it literally a decade before kind of the rest of the United States saw it.
Yeah, I think what people don't realize, and where the confusion lies, is press-wise, you're only going to see the red carpet and Brad Pitt and all the big stars standing on the red carpet and the pictures and the beautiful dresses. That is such a tiny, tiny fraction of what's actually taking place there. That red carpet, behind that red carpet, is a huge convention center. And inside that convention center are film businesses. It is the sales agents and the buyers who are acquiring films or selling films. You have entire international villages, these white pop-up temporary structures that are tents that people see, that is 100 countries from around the world, all representing their areas and their destinations. And so the first time that I went in 2013 and I walked around, my mind blown. You don't know where you are, what's going on. It's total confusion. You just see, all of this stuff, and you're like, I had no idea, that's what this is. And then from there, the thought process is, oh, everybody's here. I just met a filmmaker from California. I just met a filmmaker from here. And it's like, how come there's no one here from the US representing the industry? And like we talked about at the beginning of the
Mhm.
podcast. And then from there, it kind of grows. And that was literally when I was interviewing for St. Pete Clearwater back in 2014. I said, we could be the first and only film commission at the Cannes Film Festival. Nobody else is there. And don't know why, but it makes a huge difference and it's where people should be. And now we've been able to, as a group and as FilmUSA, really grow that and bring a big number of U.S. film commissions to Cannes every single year. And I know it's been very impactful for all those involved.
Now, Katie, talk a little bit about what 2025 looked like in the spring of 2025 when you guys were over there. Give people a sense of what the Film USA Pavilion is.
Sure. So I'm going to answer this as though someone maybe doesn't know anything about the marché. So Tony was talking about behind the festival, there's the market, right? The marché, and it's a large portion of it is the portion of the business side of the community. And so inside the convention center are a lot of distributors, sales agent, et cetera. Outside, flanking it on either side are these areas called the international villages. And in the international villages, you have, I can say this on a Florida podcast because it's like SEC tailgating. I can't say that everywhere because not everyone understands that. But it's these big white tents, and every tent represents a different country that is promoting everything they have to offer and promoting their films, their filmmakers, their locations, everything. So there are two of them. There's one on the Riviera side and one on the Pantiero side. On the Pantiero side, we've been there since we opened, and we've expanded our footprint to be a double pavilion with a double terrace. And we're only getting requests to grow from here. And so the pavilion's open from 9 to 6 every day. A U.S. commissioner is there at all times. We have pretty incredible programming. Every year, Tony, for stress reasons, Tony and I always say that we're going to cut back on some of the programming, but we get the opportunity to really have such incredible programming that we can never cut back. And we work with commissions to do special events for certain areas of promotion. We work with Stage 32 to do some really high quality panels and guests. And then we're now fortunate enough to be at a point where people are reaching out to us year round, trying to see when they could get on a panel and be a part of it. And then we are kind of famous for our evenings. We end every evening with a cocktail hour that is sponsored by a different group. And it is a great way to kind of end the day of chaos and kick off your rosé at 4 o'clock and meet a bunch of people. And it's really become a gathering point and a really good networking point. So that's the overall location and kind of day to day of what it looks like there. And then at the very last day, you can find both Tony and myself asleep in the pavilion, waiting to pack it up.
Now, Tony, for the first time in 2025, you were instrumental in Film USA and Film Florida partnering together to bring an opportunity for our members, both on the Film Commission side as well as the general member. And we were able to host Florida Day at the Film USA Pavilion. Talk a little bit about what that meant for you to see Florida Day in your pavilion, as well as kind of the benefit to all those that are affiliated with Florida and what that brought to the table.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And you're asking me this now, and I hadn't really thought about it from that perspective of what it meant to me. If I think back to just showing up in 2013 with some other filmmaker friends because we had an opportunity to go, and then to now, you fast forward 12 years later, and there's a huge presence from nationally and the state of Florida with an entire day of film commissions there doing workshops and panels, and then a cocktail hour at the end of it, and filmmakers from Florida who came, and the number of filmmakers that I saw there that I saw at the Sunscreen Film Festival 2 weeks prior. I'm like, how many Florida people are here? Like, this was insane. There were so many people there from Florida, and they were all so excited because they had the opportunity then to not just be there and see what the market's about, but they're meeting producers and they're meeting other people and building those relationships. And to me, that is always the most impactful and the most important thing are the relationships that you build. And so to have this big Florida presence and to have these Florida film commissions and producers and filmmakers and representatives from, Florida State and Sunscreen and other colleges there that can all kind of be together and meet those other filmmakers from around the world. It was really, really cool to see that. And now that you say, what does it mean to me? Wow, that's kind of cool to think where it started, where it started at now. But it was amazing to see. Obviously, I'm a Florida guy. I love supporting Florida, doing anything I can for the industry here. So very fulfilling to see that, and hopefully we can maintain that and continue that on an annual basis, because it is one of those things where people have to see you more than once in order for it to be impactful and to bring productions back to the U.S. and back to Florida.
Yeah, and it's important that I mention from the Film Florida perspective is that the opportunity that you guys gave our members was huge because, as I've said a million times, and people who talk to me know this is a broken record, Film Florida does not pay for our members to go to any of these events. All of the members decide that they want to pay it out of their own pocket, their own budget. We just are there to coordinate, and having the ability to essentially hand them over to you guys at FilmUSA and say, they know the cheat sheet, they know how to do this, was just remarkably impactful for our industry. And as you said, I think it's only the beginning. I think based on the feedback we got from people that went there and now the input that we're getting from people who want to go there, I do really believe that it is just the beginning for Florida's presence at Cannes. So, and it all is really attributed to you guys, Tony from the beginning, and FilmUSA now as a whole. So want to say thank you for that specifically. So, Katie, you mentioned a little bit in passing that Cannes is just one of the events that FilmUSA participates in. Talk a little bit about some of the other events you go to, how you choose them, what's the kind of the goal of each, and then the benefit of the participants on a practical side. What doors does it open?
Sure. So Cannes is our cornerstone event every year. It's going to be our loud and biggest event. And that's for a number of reasons. And the main one being the fact that it's still the mecca of the industry. It's where most people globally show up. It's the loudest presence. And I think Cannes is one of those places where if you're not there, and which we noticed in 21, the US was not there, it's saying something. And we didn't want that said, so we showed up. And then other events are based on member demand. We poll our members, we see where they want to go, and we do it one of two ways. So we can all band together and do something. And for example, we do a cocktail event at Berlin, and it's whichever members, are going, that they'll band together and host an event. We do a panel in Utah at the same time as Sundance in the cabin in partnership with Monarch and Private Capital. We have Focus in December every year, which is a large trade show. And when our members want us to expand, we poll and see who can come in, and we do the logistics and we build it out. We have some members right now that are really pushing for a louder presence at South by and TIFF. So those are probably our next markets. We need to scale up on our manpower because in addition to everyday life and work, it's hard for both Tony and myself to put on 7 or 8 international events a year. And then the other thing we do is, even if we don't have a formal presence, we have a very large mailing list. So for members who notify us that they're going to something, even if we're not going, let's say South by, and we don't have a formal presence there, but we have 9 members who are going, we will send out to all of our contacts, please contact these people, because we want to make it easier for our members to facilitate meetings when they're there. So if we notify our entire database that, hey, they're going to be there, then those people usually reach out directly, and then it translates into some connections.
Well, as you know, Tony, we've been at TIFF for a long time, and looking forward to you guys expanding your role there, because I think that, again, is something that our members would be interested in doing a yes and, where they're participating with us, but also at Toronto. And then, Katie, you mentioned South by Southwest. That was one of the originals, what that Film Florida went to, and the interest has kind of waned. So we're looking forward to you guys maybe having a little bit more presence, because I think there are some people that want to go there. It just wasn't cost effective when we didn't have the numbers. But if, again, the larger the numbers, I think there'll be an opportunity there as well.
That's how the whole idea really originally got started. It's expensive to travel to these things, and so it's like, well, at first it was like, well, how can we share marketing costs? How can we just get together and make this more cost effective for all of us to attend? And then from there is really where we've grown. And so now, as we see that strength in numbers, not only can you put on a cool event and have a bigger impact, but then more people can participate as well. So it's really enabling more people, whether you're a film commissioner or not, to be able to, take part in these things that can be really expensive if you're just trying to do it on your own.
And then as we expand and we're opening to paid memberships outside commissions, we'll be able to make it very affordable for commissions to come and operate under our umbrella and provide that space in all of these international markets. And we're also pursuing other grants and other forms of funding. So as we scale up and grow, there's going to be bigger and better opportunities for our members constantly throughout the calendar year. And eventually it'll get to the point where, let's say, like Film Florida wants to sign up for a slate of events, here, everywhere you can go and whatnot. And I promise, I know whoever hears is going to send me an email immediately. Y'all, I promise we are working on that. We are not there yet, but we are going in that direction.
Now, for each of you, you've been doing this a couple of years. When you look back at when you started FilmUSA, what's something that you wish you knew back then that would have made the process maybe a little bit easier? Tony, you go first.
It's interesting. A lot of times in life, you can look back and be like, oh, if I only knew that then. But for this, I think because Katie and I have been film commissioners for 10 years, we've been traveling and doing these events, there's not a lot of look back and I wish we knew. It's more so, I wish we had more time. There were more hours in the day. There were more people to help. There was more money to do more things. It's more that than if we only knew then what we know now, because we've been doing this for so long that nothing was really a huge surprise. It's just the volume of time commitment that it takes to really make these kind of things happen.
I would agree. I would say, we both have a commission background and a startup background, so we knew we were getting into a lot of work. And I think one of the surprises we had early on was just the pace of the momentum and the excitement that everybody met us with and the growth pace. But I'm not sure I would have told myself that at the beginning, like, hey, everybody's going to be ready for this. Like, buckle up. It's about to go. I don't know if I would have wanted that information at the beginning or not. Maybe I would have, but it's, to Tony's point, it's just the enthusiasm and the need has been intense. So it's been a fast pace, but I don't know if there's anything we could have had in the beginning that would have made it smoother, other than maybe just like, here, buckle up, guys. Don't forget to eat lunch. Here we go.
Were you surprised at the demand?
I was so dual. One, I was not surprised because we knew it was needed. I think where the surprise came in for me was the intensity and enthusiasm of everyone. Everyone was like, drop everything you guys are doing, do this full time. We need this. We've been waiting for this. It's amazing. And I thought we were going to have to come back and explain ourselves a little bit more and explain what our long-term strategy was. And when we published the white paper, explain why we needed a federal. And it's not a matter of explanation. It's a continual pep rally with everybody. Everyone's like, yep, nope, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that was the surprise.
Yeah, and I think people, because an organization like Film Florida exists, or the TXMPA, which is sort of Texas's version of Film Florida, and California has Flicks. There are little pockets of film commissions working together at state levels, and so because everyone is familiar with those, when they see FilmUSA, we're you guys on a national scale, everyone gets it instantaneously, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, this could be something really good. Yeah, let's go. And so it's, thanks to Film Florida and other organizations like you for laying that groundwork of understanding, so that we do have all these film commissions that just want to jump on board and run full speed.
Yeah, when I was on the Hill talking about all this to some representatives, one of my favorite sentences was someone goes, oh, this has a high duh factor. And I was like, what is, he said, it's just you explain it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, duh, we need that. And I'm like, oh, I like that. I have a high duh factor. I'll take it.
Yeah, I like that too. Katie, where can people learn more about FilmUSA and everything that's going on?
Well, of course, our website, which is in the midst of a massive redo. So I'm very excited when that rolls out. And then go to our social medias, FilmUSA.org. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of the above, and sign up for our newsletter. If you're a film commissioner, sign up to be a member. Member forms on the website. You can email us directly, both Katie and Tony at filmusa.org or info@filmusa.org. We're constantly talking to people. And then once you join, we'll be able to give you the Mighty Networks if you're a film commissioner. And I would recommend signing up for that. So in conclusion, follow us on social media, check out the website as it develops, sign up for the newsletter. And then the newsletter will let you know about what events we have and how you can participate. And I would like to remind everybody that while it is film commissioners that are doing the gathered presence at these major markets, we always have corporate partners that join. And so there is an opportunity to work with us there too.
And again, it's free for film commissioners. There's absolutely no reason not to join. And the important thing is you don't have to have a big budget to go to any of these events to be part of FilmUSA. You can be a passive participant in FilmUSA and just gather the information, listen, and all of that, which I think is a huge advantage to being a member, whether you can go to any of these, sales missions or not, right?
Yes, and I appreciate you saying that because I do want to highlight one thing that I want to make perfectly clear. We are a home for all U.S. film commissioners. You do not have to buy in. You don't have to be a member, a paid member. You don't have to even participate in the cost of the sales mission. If you're there, you still have a home. You have a home base at any event. There's larger logo recognition and sponsorship benefits to people who are paying in for those events, but everything is open to U.S. film commissioners always.
Yeah, that's one of the important things I think about the pavilion in Cannes. Like there's no charge to come in and to meet film commissioners or to hang out or come to the happy hours or anything like that at all. Like it is just a big community experience for filmmakers and producers and actors and screenwriters and film commissioners to all be able to gather together and meet and to provide that, that space for everyone.
Well, I want to thank both of you for your commitment to the industry, especially your support of Film Florida. And thanks for being on the Film Florida podcast with us.
Thank you for having us. And thank you, Film Florida, for participating in FilmUSA.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're looking forward to many more years to come.
Thanks for listening to the Film Florida podcast. For more information about Film Florida, go to filmflorida.org and like or follow our social media pages. If you're not already a member of Film Florida, please consider joining at filmflorida.org. Please also consider going to our website and donating $20.25 for our 2025 fundraising campaign. Check out the Film Florida merchandise at filmflorida.creator-spring.com, and please remember to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast.